Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's me, Robert Phoenix, and we are back for another edition of the Friday FARcast. And for the first hour, we are going to be joined by our good friend, Mr. Dawg, who is now taking on the moniker of Alfonso. We'll find out more about that. And we're going to be talking about the audio version of his very wicked and satirical novel, The Sharter, Waking Up from Hip Hop Hypnosis. And I'm really looking forward to the conversation and reconnecting with Al. Before we do, of course, we need to give a shout out to, of course, True Hemp Science. And True Hemp Science is your one-stop shop for all your CBD needs. There are plenty of other places you can get it online, but you'll never get anything like this. I'm telling you right now. Our guy Chris at True Hemp Science is a true alchemist, and I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of words and testimonials that that agree with me. So all you got to do, spend $100 more, type in 15MINS, and you will get the goodie bag. That means you get an order within the order. You're going to love it. You're going to get some of the gummies. They're almost worth the price of admission alone. $150 more, get you free shipping. Always a 30-day money-back guarantee. And of course, we love it because it's made in America. So support Chris and support the show. There you go. All right. Let's do this, man. Woof, woof, woof. Let's bring on Dawg, aka Alfonso FR. What's going on, brother?
It's good to see you, man. I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad you're still rocking down there in Texas at the epicenter of it all, it seems. So
Yeah, man.
glad you're okay.
It is. I'm telling you, man. It's weird. It's weird. I just put up a post last night on locals, which describes my experience, and I'll bring that into the show later after we spend a reasonable amount of time with you. And now Trump is in town, and the entire downtown. I mean for blocks. I know where he's going to be. He's going to be speaking at this like it's like a convention hall, but it's very small, right? I mean, they have gun shows there. They have arts and craft sales there, and that's where he's going to be. And that's about maybe about 2 miles out of the downtown area of Kerrville. Well, they've blocked off the entire down. They've blocked off basically about a 5 mile radius around this place. So the only people that are going to be allowed to be in that space with Trump are going to be like first responders, the mayor, and maybe a few select press. But after Epstein, there's nothing like a disinfectant other than a disaster. And
Yeah, man.
that's that. So this is a roll on moment for Trump.
What's interesting is the efficiency in which this can be organized, and does that contrast with the efficiency of the relief?
Well, so I write about this on my locals page. Like I've to be honest, I've never been through a fucking natural disaster like this, right? Like
Right.
I managed to escape fires in California, um, earthquakes in California. This is like my first brush with natural disaster of this magnitude. The response of the whatever group you can fill in the blank with here in Texas was immediate. At the logistics, I mean, everything happened so quickly. I was really impressed, actually. Right across the highway from where I live is this church. It's kind of this mega church, right? It's got a big parking lot and a big sort of open field area. It's filled. It's filled with earth movers. It's filled with like food trailers, official equipment. On Friday and Saturday, helicopters were landing in and out of there. On Saturday, we saw pontoon boats coming into the area really quickly, amphibious vehicles. I met this really interesting guy, Tim Miller, and I met him earlier in the week. He's got this business called Texas Equisearch, and
Mm-hmm.
he started off with horses and looking for missing people, and he took this on because his daughter went missing, and the police gave up on her. He didn't. He found her plus three other girls buried in a field in Houston, and from that point forward, he's dedicated his life to finding missing people, and so his whole operation was here. And I talked to
Wow.
this guy. I talked to this guy, and he's a fucking hero. Let me tell you, right? Like this dude, and he's just real quick. I'll tell you a quick story. He was called into this case by the FBI, and there was this woman who'd been missing for 21 years, and they hadn't given up on it. And the FBI said, "Hey, listen, we think that maybe perhaps the husband knows something. Maybe she might be in and around the home that they lived in, right?" So they get a warrant and they bring him in. And this is the same house this woman lived in. The husband is there. The children, 21 years later, have grown up. I don't know if they're still there or not. He walks in, looks around. He sees one patch of the floor in the house that's tiled differently than other parts of the house. And he looks at the FBI agent and says, "She's down there." So they get a jackhammer and then they open it up, and sure enough, there are the remains of this guy's wife. Those kids have been sleeping on top of their mother for 20 years, right? And
Cryptic.
this guy's a badass, man. He's a
Mm-hmm.
total badass, and he's probably, I don't know, maybe 66, 67. He's got those kind of Piscean, watery blue eyes. And I asked him, what did you do before you did this? He says, "I was a contractor." So
Mm-hmm.
he understood things about homes and structure. And so now it's not just horses. He deploys drones, sonar. He's got all these tools at his disposal. People fly him all over the world and his team to go find missing people. So this guy would make a great, great movie. Totally great movie. And I'm going to try to get him on my show in a couple weeks. He said he'd come on there. I've got his cell phone number. So, man, there's just so many stories here that, I was at the gym the other night and there's this gal at the gym. Her father owns the gym. So she works out there a lot. And me and my buddy Homer, who's my trainer, we started talking to her and she had this big wrap on her thumb, right? And she had cut her thumb pretty badly just prior to the flood. And what's interesting is that she has a cat, she's a house cleaner. She's in her 20s. She's a house cleaner. So she had accounts out in Hunt, which is where the epicenter of the flooding really was. And I asked her, I said, "Did you have any appointments to clean any houses at in Hunt that morning?" She said, "I don't know. I think I might have." So this this thing that happened to her thumb quite possibly could have saved her life. In the meantime, she knows at least 4 or 5 people who've died, right? And there's a story I write about on locals, and it's a soccer coach from Tivy High School, where Johnny Manziel went to school, right? He, his wife, and their 2 kids gone, just gone, done. And there are, I mean, we're going to be there when it's all said and done. I think the dead slash missing toll is going to be around 300 people.
Mm-hmm.
The damage is in the billions, and the mayor is way underqualified. This is way above his pay grade. Like he does this thing where when he has a press conference, he only 3 questions can be asked.
I'm like
He,
that with some of my relatives.
well, I mean, You got a press corps in there
Mm-hmm.
that's regional, national, and international. There are people who have flown in to cover this event, and you're going to give them 3 questions. And so what happens is that knowing that there's only 3 questions that can be asked, they're very vocal, right? They want to get noticed, so their question gets answered. And then he scolds them. He scolds them for being too noisy and says, "Raise your hand. Remember, like you learned how to do in the 3rd grade? I mean, you gotta be fucking kidding me,
Mm-hmm.
right? I
That's
mean,
crazy.
it's crazy. I mean, this is like way. I write about him in some detail, and I think you'll get this right when you go onto his city page. What will you see? I'll tell you what you'll see. You'll see that he served on this committee and this committee and this commission, and he got this award from the Women's League of Voters and this award from the Masons. And it's just like he's just piling up all these social credits, right?
Yep.
And he's a very Saturnian man. Like that's what Saturnian people do. They get plaques, they get awards, they get certificates, they're on arts commissions. But when it comes to a real crisis, when it comes to something that's chaotic and Uranian, they fold like tents because they're over civilized. They have some vague sense of Christian values. They're just not prepared for this. And not only that, but I have a sneaking suspicion that he's been double jabbed because he's missed a bunch of time since he's been elected as mayor, which has not been that
Mm-hmm.
long. And he's had to be in absentia. And when you see him up there, he looks really frail. He's edgy. The moment is way too big for him. And he's so fucking condescending. And he says, I don't care if you don't like the process. It's how we do things in Kerrville. No, asshole. It's how you do things in Kerrville. Right? You don't speak for the rest of us. So, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he actually badmouthed Trump and the administration a little bit a few days ago for cutting off the NOAA funding. And guess who's in town today?
Trump.
Trump. Yep.
Yep.
And this is perfect for Trump. It's perfect. Like I said, a disaster is a great disinfectant. So while this stench of Epstein sort of lingers over the administration, now we get to change the narrative. Trump shows up, does his kudos. I think Greg Abbott's doing a great job, a fine job. He's a great mayor, great governor. He's one of the best governors in the country. Like you're going to hear that from him, and then he's going to. I don't know what he's going to do with the mayor, but yeah. So that's where we are today. The great one, number what is he? 40 was he 46? Number 46 is here.
I think he's 47 at this point. I think he was 45 and 47, right? I always remember because of the 9/11 symbolism, right?
86. I think he's 47. Yeah, you're right. 86, 47.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what Comey wrote. 86, 47.
Mm-hmm.
So
Anyways,
yeah, let's take a
yeah.
shift into the
Let's.
into the doggy pound.
Mm-hmm.
So all right, let's set the stage a little bit here. When you were growing up, were you immediately drawn to hip hop? Did you listen to other music? Like how did you get into the saggy jean world?
Oh man. Starts very young, right? First tape I ever bought was actually still a tape. This was in 1998, not quite yet a CD. It was actually Kid Rock's Devil Without a Cause. Then from there, it was sort of that Limp Bizkit, Kid Rock segue into your Eminem, right? Eminem was the big cultural dam that broke white America into, gangster rap and hip hop in the mainstream, not only in America, but also in Europe. And then from there was, when I was like 10 years old, Marshall Mathers LP, Dr. Dre, Chronic 2001. And, my dad was a huge fan of both of those albums. So from there, that's kind of what I was into. And then after that, after Eminem, that broke into the 50 Cents, the G Units, and the Game, and things of that nature. So, and then into your Kanye's and Lil Wayne's and stuff. So that would be a
So
brief synopsis.
Kid Rock was your gateway drug.
Definitely, yeah. Ball with the Boss specifically.
Yeah.
That song.
I mean, I have to admit, he was kind of interesting back in the day, right? Like Kid Rock was kind of interesting. Like his whole stage show. Didn't he have like that dwarf guy on?
Yeah. He had a dwarf and like sort of this bizarre looking drummer with stringy hair, sort of racially ambiguous, gender ambiguous, just sort of, yeah, him and that, what was his name? I forget the midget's name, or the dwarf or whatever.
Yeah,
But
we
yeah,
gotta
he's
get the size classification right. We don't want to.
yeah. I don't want to miscategorize it, whether it's dwarf or midget. He might get pissed, so we don't want to go there. He has a
Yeah,
short temper, so we don't want to
yeah,
piss him off.
yeah. And then it's interesting because you transition out of this. We're going to get into your transition. Um,
Okay.
Even Kid Rock transitions out of rap,
Yeah.
right? He goes
And
more into rock and more into country, and he like distances himself from the genre, so he's more Nashville than was it Belleville? Is that the hip hop area of Detroit, right? So he's more Nashville than Belleville now. And I think some of that's a career move and moving with the demographic change, but maybe he also saw the culture in a similar way that you did and said, "I'm out. I'm out. I'm not down with this." Let's talk about, because there's a change with hip hop. Now, for me, I go back to a much earlier time with hip hop. Like when I was listening to music, and I listened to everything. Double Dutch Bus, Rapper's Delight, like those were the records. Curtis Blow, The Breaks, Run DMC. Eventually, LL Cool J steps onto the scene. Eric B. and Rakim, Big Daddy Kane. Like these are kind of the first wave hip hop guys, and they're kind of interesting. Um, they kind of look tight. They've got their fades. There's humor. You've got Biz Markie. You've got Kid and Play. You've got what's his name? Funky Cold Medina. Like hip hop is funny. It doesn't take itself seriously. And then eventually you kind of morph into Public Enemy. And Public Enemy is like, you know what? We got something to say about our community, and we're going to start to talk about it. So all of a sudden, hip hop becomes political, right? And then there's this decision that's made, and I know you're well aware of this. It's like, okay, do we push the industry more towards PE or NWA? And they go all in on the NWA direction. And that's linked apparently to a bunch of record executives investing in the private prison systems. And then, oh, well, we need more of this gangster rap shit so we can fill those prisons. And they go hand in glove. And that is really, for me, the dark turning point with hip hop. It starts to get darker and darker and darker. And then you start off, this is a good kind of stepping off point into the Sharter. You chronicle this right at the beginning, and you start to talk about all these deaths that and the deaths around hip hop were kind of always there. Like uh, Daryl McDaniel's brother from Run DMC, he dies,
Mhm.
right? Um, you have a metaphoric death when Rick Griffin gets kicked out of Public Enemy, but that's a different story. You've got Aaliyah, right? Who's the girlfriend of Damon Dash. She dies. You get Lisa One Eye Lopes, not quite hip hop, but close. She dies. So then you got Tupac and Biggie. Those are the big deaths, and it kind of sets it all off. And then when you brought in all these guys like Juice World, Triple X Tension, right? And you're just rattling these things off like they're everyday fucking occurrences now. Let's start right there, and let's talk about that phase because it seems like that really hooks you. That
Big
period.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was still, a huge rap fan probably up until 2014. And, growing up, I was always fascinated by the deaths of, Tupac Shakur, Biggie Smalls, even Kurt Cobain, and just, sort of asking myself, wow, there's a lot of death in this music industry, just having that in the background. So that's always been part of my music fanhood, right? And then 2015, I'm still a rap fan, still think it's kind of cool, think this is entrepreneurial in some way, and I admire that or whatever. These guys are artists, they're writing, it's interesting, whatever. And then spring of 2015, Lil Wayne, I was a huge Lil Wayne fan. His tour bus is shot at. Okay, and this is a big public thing. I'm obsessed with this. I'm completely obsessed with this. The reason why I'm obsessed with it is because the man who shot at Lil Wayne's tour bus happened to be an associate of Young Thug, aka Jeffrey Lamar Williams. Turns out that the man who shot at Lil Wayne's tour bus was in cell phone contact, according to public court records, was in cell phone contact with Brian Birdman Williams prior to shooting at Lil Wayne's tour bus and afterward. And he was also in cell phone contact, apparently, with Jeffrey Lamar Williams. So there's a lot of speculation there that could have been an attempted hit or perhaps maybe just to send a message. Who really knows? Fast forward to just recently, Jeffrey Lamar Williams, aka Young Thug, was he essentially pleaded out to RICO with his YSL Young Slime Life gang. So I was obsessed with that. And that kind of, for a while, that sort of was on my mind, right? But then 2016, 2017, 2018 rolls around. During this time period, especially 2017, 2018, there was a big rapper death every quarter,
Right.
And I'm really into conspiracies at this point, but not only, the geopolitical conspiracies, but I'm diving into the gematria, diving into the symbolism of that death and this other death. Who benefits? Do the record companies benefit? Who in their close circle may have benefited? What else was going on? Were they beefing? Did they have drug habits? But that specific time period when, it was Mac Miller, I would just be at work and I would just be like, oh my God, Mac Miller died. Oh my God, Nipsey Hussle died. Oh
Right.
my God, Juice World. Oh my God, Little Peep. Oh my God, Takeoff from Migos. Oh my
Right.
God, Pop Smoke. And you see it on the internet. It happens all the time. And then you don't know who these guys are sometimes, but then everybody knows who they are when, King Von, for example, he's dead. Okay. And now Little Dirk, another big artist, is, in jail for life for hiring people to murder on behalf of his gang or whatever. So it's just constant death. And then you dive into it. And then when I dove into XXX Tentacion specifically, it got so dark and disgusting. I became completely disgusted with the genre and I decided to satirize it. So I satirized the entire genre in the Sharter, a comedic journey out of hip hop hypnosis. And, you recently, I'm so happy you finished the audiobook, man. I'm stoked. And I want to get your take because you told me earlier that the crass humor, although it is crass, there's a reason for it. I like to mix the really lowbrow with the highbrow and lowbrow. And I think South Park used to do a great job of that. And that's
Well,
what I attempt.
it's funny that you mentioned South Park because I had
Yeah,
images of South Park as I was reading your book,
nice.
like a South Park kind of version of the book, and yeah, and then you brought up another interesting point about Glorilla and Megan Thee Stallion, and who else do we have? Like that Ice chick,
Yeah,
um, and then it's like the
it's
female
insulting.
rappers. The female rappers aren't dying though,
They're not. They're not.
right?
But
Right.
it's
I'm telling, it almost feels like a replacement program.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's gone from like super gangster, like over the top gangster to straight up prostitute stripper rap is like the predominant um, you know, genre nowadays. But it's interesting. You mentioned Megan Thee Stallion, right? Stallion, when you look it up in the dictionary, stallion means male breeding horse.
Right.
This woman is calling herself a male breeding horse, and nobody's pointing out, hey, that name is incredibly stupid. Or maybe it's meant to be stupid to insult everybody involved. What's the other one? Glorilla. She's calling
Yeah.
herself a gorilla. It's like, and on the men are worse because guess what? On the men, you have Lil Baby, you have Duh Baby, and then you have Pooh
Little Pump.
Shiesty.
Little Pump.
Yeah, Little Pump. And I was thinking about Little Dirk, who's currently incarcerated for murder for hire. I was just thinking, Little Dirk, Little Dirk. His real name is Derek. I think he tried to spell Derek, and he came up with Little Dirk. But yeah, it's the names are outrageous, and it's so over the top outrageous that I can't. It's mind blowing that I ever thought any of this was cool or acceptable, and that millions of people are in a state of hypnosis.
Well, so
Literally.
if you look at those names on the men's side, it's
Yeah.
all infantilism, right?
Yes.
It's infantilism, and then on the female side, it's kind of hyper testosterone, and there's this, I'd say, very dark social engineering aspect that's all part of it. And yeah, man, this is we're in really fascinating territory here. Before I jump back into it, somebody asked a question that I want to answer, and it's right here. Who was the DJ for the coup who died? It was a she, and that was Pam the Functress. That's who died for the coup. Boots is the other guy from the coup. He's still alive. Did you ever listen to Black Alicious at all?
No, I have not.
So that was another part of the whole hip hop genre, sort of the conscious hip hop. They also called it backpacker hip hop, and the Black Alicious were amazing. And their guy, who was their lead spitter, rhymer, whatever you call it, his name was Gift of Gab. This guy was fucking great.
Mm-hmm.
He died by natural causes, though. He was overweight. He was a diabetic. He didn't take care of himself. There was no suspicious or foul play involved. He was a casualty of his own disregard for his health. But that's a whole other genre that just said, yeah, we're not really interested in this. We're gonna go all in on absolutely desecrating the black community, and then whoever else is caught up in the wave, right? And I believe it's completely and utterly conscious. And you get into some of this with one of your characters in the book who's a record industry mogul. And I think you're making a connection between Liar Cohen, is that right, with that character?
Yeah, there are some similarities for sure.
Yeah,
Carl Kowinski is the name of the character. Yeah.
right. And it's amazing. Like what's what's the gal who's doing the interview? Is it Jessica? What's her name?
Raquel Hernandez.
Raquel Hernandez. That part fucking cracked me up,
Okay. Nice.
right? Because she's there to interview Birdman,
The
right?
turd man in the book. Yeah.
Birdman in the book,
Yeah.
and she wants to turn it into this serious Oprah thing, but your Liar Cohen character won't let her do it. Won't let her go there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then who's the character that is he wants to put a dress on and go
Oh, that's
rolling.
Young Drug. And then
Young
there's
Buck.
yeah. Yeah.
And again, you can see like the hidden hand there. And I thought you were really deft with. At first, he wanted to do something really outrageous. Was like shit on him or something,
Yes.
right?
It's all yeah.
Right, and then but it's kind of the psychological ploy, so that when he gives him this other option, which is absolutely demeaning, it's still better than shitting on him, right? And it's like kind of going into the brain of somebody who's really manipulative and
Big
getting
time.
getting somebody to make a choice which they think is the lesser of two evils. And I thought that was really brilliant. So this is a fascinating book, and your attention to detail is, I think, remarkable. And so my 40,000 foot view is this. There is a raft of characters in this book. I mean, a lot. And the ability to establish who they are, string them together through multiple narratives, and stay consistent with their values, lack thereof, or their voice is not an easy thing to do, right? It is very, very difficult. And on the audiobook side of it, you're actually taking on the actual voice of these characters,
Yeah.
which I think you do a really good job of that as well. So the ability to have this tapestry of all these characters and stay with them through the loops of all these different narratives, that in and of itself is a feat. I got to tell you, that's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
That is not easy. Um, and you and I were texting earlier today, and I'm like, I'm like maybe 10 or 11 chapters in, and I'm like, there's shit, sharp, fart everywhere, right? Shit, sharp, fart everywhere, and I'm like, okay, all right, how many more chapters is the shit, sharp, fart going to go on for? And then it continues,
56.
but it does change.
Yeah, it does. Big time.
It does change. And so, of course, I put my English lit critic hat on, right? And I'm like, well, what's really going on here? What is the function of the display of the dark bodily fluids, the profane, right? So I had two takeaways, and I'm going to toss this back to you and see if you want to build on what my take is.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I think it was a way for you to deal with your own shit, right? Like these characters and what they were doing was in some ways a metaphorical device for you to shit out this culture that you had consumed.
Mm-hmm.
The second level that I saw this at is that the shit becomes in some ways, I would call it fertile, but it in some ways it does become this kind of rancid alchemy that by the
Yeah.
end of the book you've somehow managed to turn all this shit into a absolutely frenzied, frenetic, frantic, psychedelic, surreal ending. And I don't think you get there without laying out the shit. All right,
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to hear what you think about that and your own commentary on shit.
Yeah. I mean, I think that humor is ultimately healthy, right? So the best way for people and for me personally to snap out of hip hop hypnosis and my exit away from that culture entirely was very similar to what you said. Because, for a while I was headed down a David McGowan style direction with the book. He was the guy who wrote, Weird Scenes from Inside the Canyon, right?
Mhm.
And I was headed down that direction, right? And I just realized that being the guy that pulls up the documents and all of that isn't as effective as humor is, right? For me personally, I know this, and I know this for other people. That's why, something like an effective South Park episode could have saved the day in 2020. We didn't get that from them because they basically got paid off, it seems like to me, so we never got that in 2020 from them. But the place for satire, and I never, grew up thinking I'd be a fiction writer or anything like that, but fiction and, getting things out via fictional characters that are sort of inspired by real people, is an outlet definitely for me personally. And then the second part was, yeah, there's definitely an alchemical element to this for sure, because ultimately I do believe the Sharter is soil. And to grow something new, you see some fruit behind me, right? It's really about laying down that soil and doing that and slaughtering these sacred cows that everybody used to revere. People used to like, and it's insane to look back at it, because it's like, you know, if you were to visualize some of these rap artists on the street, if you were to see them on the street and they weren't rich, somebody like Post Malone, who similar to Kid Rock has gone country, but if you saw Post Malone on the street and he was having a bad day, he was hungover, he would look like a homeless person.
Oh yeah,
You know what I mean?
sure.
Same thing with Lil Wayne. He would look like a homeless, deranged person if he's not wearing those jewels.
Yeah.
He looks insane and homeless. All these guys do, really. They got face tattoos. And, with this hip hop culture, I've seen a proliferation of facial tattoos. I know you've seen it down in Texas since 2008, really, which is, I think, an aspect, a tangent, an aspect of hip hop hypnosis, in my view, because it's proliferated. But yeah, I mean, definitely an alchemical element to this. I think that,
Hold your book up again. Hold your book up again.
yeah, sure.
All right, just hold it there. Hold it up. Okay, look.
Yeah.
You got the brown in the center, which is the
Yeah.
shit, and then you have the
Hmm.
gold outlay on the edge, right? That is
With
alchemical.
guns. Yeah.
That is
Yep.
alchemical. It's shit into gold.
Hmm.
So I like that, man. There you go.
Yeah, man.
So don't you think that Lil Wayne's relationship with Skip Bayless is weird?
It's painful, to be honest with you. It's Skip Bayless trying to be cool, and it's Lil Wayne just high as a kite watching ESPN 12 hours a day. And here's this guy with this big name and this big profile. Oh, let's have him on because we're this cool hip hop. Man, I got to tell you, it all ties in. Sports, hip hop, music, and geopolitical events, they're all connected. What we see with the relationship with Skip and Lil Wayne is the degradation of Sports Center and ESPN in general. Because I remember a time, the late '90s, Sports Center was hilarious. It was fantastic.
Yes, it was
These guys
fun.
were good, man.
Even Keith Olbermann was funny,
He
right?
was, yeah,
And then he went nuts, but it was witty, it was funny. They had, I mean, yeah, and even the commercials for ESPN were hilarious.
yes,
And then they
yeah,
they they got the memo, right? They got the memo. It's time for a culture change.
yeah,
It's time to hip hopify ESPN. And I think that, and it's weird, they can't let it go, right? They just can't let it go. They had that show with Jamel Hill and Michael, what's his name, called The Six. You remember that?
no, I don't, but I know who Jamel Hill is. Yeah,
So they basically replaced SportsCenter
okay.
with Jamel Hill and this Michael guy who's a sports writer, and it was on at six, and they called it The Six. It was terrible,
Yeah, it sounds awful.
absolutely terrible. So they ditched that, but then they somehow managed to repackage like NBA Tonight, and then they kick what's her name, Rachel Nichols off, and they bring on Malika Andrews, who's a total plant, right? Total plant. I know all about Malika Andrews' background. She went to the same school for kind of crazy young girls that Paris Hilton went to in Utah. So she was a little troubled. Her
Hmm.
father is Jewish. She went to a progressive social justice school in Berkeley. So she was primed for all this, right? She goes to Portland, writes one story for like investigative for I believe University of Portland. And her first job, she lands with the freaking Milwaukee Bucks covering the Bucks. That's her
Huh?
first job.
Yeah.
She's there for a year, and then she covers the Bulls for a year, and now she's on NBA Tonight, and she's surrounded by Kendrick Perkins and Stephen A.
Hmm.
Smith, and every now and then you get a token white guy in there like Bob Myers, but that's about it, right? And now ESPN's got this. Have you seen it? It's called The Vibe. Have you seen The Vibe?
No, it sounds just awful. It sounds dreadful.
It's as awful as it sounds. It's
Yeah.
basically three. Think of like a three, you know, black black chicks, one white chick version of The View, but hip hop and sports. It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
And so they're like Lil Wayne. Yeah, was he there on First Take or whatever, or Shannon Sharp? Yeah, but just like how they've taken and infantilized these male rappers and elevated these female rappers, they've done the same thing with ESPN and SportsCenter. It's the same
Yeah.
program. They're locked into the same models, and it's the same
Yes.
people like Lyra Cohen and what's his name from Arista. All these guys, man, they're Doug Morris, right? They're the ones that call the shots. CAA, creative artists, um, across the board, not just hip hop, but now there's this merging with sports, and it's taken over the culture.
Big merger. I think at the center of that is that guy Michael Rubin, right? I think that's his name. He's constantly throwing these parties
Yeah.
and he's always hugging these guys very aggressively and very
Oh
publicly.
yeah. He's the guy that hangs out with Bob Kraft.
Yeah. And he loves to hang out with Little Baby and Da Baby. And he what he does, I've noticed a behavioral pattern with him where he loves to like, he's this little shorter guy, right? But he loves to like manhandle these guys.
Yeah.
Loves it. Loves to pinch them. Loves to put him there. Loves to hug him from behind aggressively. And there's a lot of photos of that. Him with, Meek Mill is, good friends with him. And he's always, he's the same guy who publicly embarrassed Meek Mill. He had Meek Mill literally hop up and down on a tennis court as he recorded it.
And who
And
who was there? Probably Bob Kraft, because
mhm,
Bob Kraft takes Meek Mill everywhere.
very
That
weird.
dude, that relationship is weird.
Yeah,
Like like when he took Meek Mill to the Holocaust Museum in fucking Germany, like really? And
that's
he's
weird.
it's like he's his pet or something. Like there's something
Yeah,
weird there with those two guys.
a lot of weird stuff with that. Yeah, definitely. Meek
Yeah.
Mill is he's somebody who it's embarrassing to say, but it's true. College, we love to listen to Meek Mill. And now Meek Mill, I see him as like a special education student. Not that I, aim to denigrate those people, but I don't see him as a incredible artist. I see him as a guy who's, being led around by other people and somebody who is being taken advantage of and being made a fool of publicly in order to make a fool of other populations on a public level. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And and Bob Kraft is an embarrassment. I mean, he thinks it
mhm,
gives him clout, right?
yeah,
To be courtside with Meek Mill and his fake young girlfriend.
yeah,
Uh, and it's like, dude, get a life, man. That is
yeah, yeah,
disturbing. Really
yeah.
disturbing.
It's real weird, that whole
So
clique.
so coming back to your book, the end, I don't want to give it away too much,
Mhm.
but the ending kind of reminded me a little bit of the Kingsmen, right? Like this kind of this social frenzy, all these things that are going on. It's absolutely and utterly wild. And so when you were crafting this kind of denouement of chaos, what were you thinking of? What was inspiring you? Where was that coming from?
A lot of 2020, because I started really finishing the book. Uh, the main premises in 2023, I started recording the audiobook in 2024. But what I saw out in the world and the lack of satire in place, and I'll give it away. So the masks were a big thing in 2020. Everybody was wearing masks. So in the Sharter, instead of wearing masks, people are wearing sausage links attached to their head because there's a Bologna virus. Okay. So people, instead of masks, it's just a sausage link that people are wearing and on a massive scale. So they're under hip hop hypnosis. They're listening to this ridiculous music. They're sort of worshiping these false idols, being misled by all these different Pied Pipers of different sorts and different outfits, right? And it's kind of this culmination of social chaos that's an exaggerated um, reality. So it's based in real things, but it's just an exaggerated satirical version. So that's kind of what was going on with me personally. I was like, you know, for me personally, it's like a career and is like a job. It's like I don't necessarily think I'm the pull up the documents guy. I'm more of the okay, I can create a product, writing something funny and satire, using satire to make a mockery of society when it's necessary. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it feels to me like that's a really, really old tradition that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of been lost in the sauce of political correctness.
Big time.
Because if you're going to be satirical, there are no sacred cows.
Big time. Yeah.
And it goes all the way. I mean, if you, to be honest, Gulliver's Travel is a satire, right? It is a satire. There are people who are in Gulliver's called the Wahoos, right? Everything about Gulliver's Travels is a satire. And again, that's, Swift is Irish, and it's part of this Irish tradition. There were times in the Sharter where, for me, there were actually kind of shades of James Joyce.
Okay.
Uh, and again, when you read Finnegan's Wake is much different than Ulysses. This book has a little Finnegan's Wake in it. And Finnegan's Wake has some very satirical moments. So the idea of like Blazing Saddles would be a modern version of a satire. You couldn't make Blazing Saddles today, right? Even though, or even the producers, and you know, what's his name? Mel Brooks is Jewish, and he writes a play or writes a movie about these two shysters on Broadway, both of whom are Jewish, who's basically oversell shares in their play, create this absolutely terrible play called Springtime for Hitler. You couldn't do that today. Even if
Mm-hmm.
you're Mel Brooks and you're Jewish, you wouldn't be able to get away with it. So satire, in many ways, is a really lost art form. And it's not just a kind of a lost art form, it can also be lost on people as well.
Yeah. I mean, I always felt like it served a function, and I think it has been lost. I think for a very long time, South Park provided that outlet. And there's the reality of entertainment today is it's all like 99.9% of it is just garbage. Like it's just trash. Like all of it. It's just too loaded with social engineering to the point where it's like, in my view, I think nowadays is actually a good opportunity because people have the means to go direct to audience, right? They have things like Substack, things like YouTube, things like, Twitter. You can go direct. It's all direct, direct, direct. So do I think, a book like mine will ever have a massive social impact? No, but I do think it'll affect positively 10,000, 100,000 people that can have a laugh and move on and kind of, look back and laugh. And I think that's the best way to do it. Like with rap, man, it's like I see people snap out of hip hop hypnosis all the time, and it is something that is happening. But the only thing I can compare it to is like a hair metal, like guys that were fans of hair metal, and they're like looking back and they're like, that is so ridiculous that we ever thought that was cool, you know? And somebody like Mike Williams I talked to, he was a huge fan of the Beatles, right? And then he's done all this research that shows that it was a construct, just like rap. So it's like, I think that humor is the best way to look back, literally look back and then move forward. So,
Well, even the Beatles were satirized. There was a
mhm.
movie called The Ruddles
Okay.
that Eric Idle, Neil McInnes satirizing the Beatles, right? You have, this is Spinal Tap satirizing not the hair metal scene, but sort of the heavy rock scene.
Hmm.
And there's even been some hip hop satire. What is it, CB4 with Chris Rock? And then what is it, Fear of a Black Hat with Rusty Kundiev, who was one of the writers, I believe, for Dave Chappelle. So there's been some hip hop satire as
Hmm.
well, but I haven't seen anything lately that satirizes hip hop. Have you?
Not besides this, but the thing is, man, it was such a challenge because it's a difficult genre to satirize when you got guys like Lil Baby, Dub Baby, Pooh Shiesty, Meg the Stallion, and what's it, Glorilla. It's hard to satirize.
Who
I mean,
needs
these
to,
guys are
who needs to satirize that? It's a satire in and of itself, right?
exactly. And then you add to the fact that these guys are publicly using drugs. They're publicly endorsing drugs. I see it nowadays, not necessarily not just limited to the private prison industry. I think it's a lot of pharmaceutical sales is like done. I don't know, like I can't say that specifically, but I sort of see the angle where specific drugs are being named all the time and popularized through rap music. Somebody like Lil Peep explicitly talking about Xanax, explicitly talking about hard drug use. Somebody like Future, he has Suboxone is like the main feature of his music video, and Suboxone is like a heroin withdrawal drug, and it's like this is disgusting. Like, or Future, he has a chorus that goes literally huge hit song, Molly Percocet, Molly Percocet. That's the chorus. It's so explicit and over the top that it's like there's no way that this continues in a positive direction. It's people. I think that hypnosis could be defined as behavior modification through repetition. There's a
Yeah.
lot of repetition happening in
And
this rap
trauma,
music.
and trauma too, right?
Yeah.
Like when you start bringing up the deaths,
Yes.
particularly with Tupac and Biggie, you know, on a smaller scale, it's kind of like the trauma of Kennedy in the
Hmm.
60s. Or
Definitely.
if you go to the late 60s, Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix, Brian Jones, Janis Joplin, right? Trauma, trauma, trauma. So you have these traumas setting in to the hip hop community. And then you now have this kind of new layer of hip hop, this new layer of rap that's coming in, like on top of the trauma. And that in and of itself, I believe, leads to a type of hypnosis as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Totally, man. It's crazy. It's there's a lot there because first off, it started where you would have drug dealer music like the Jay-Z's and the Biggies. They would rap about drug dealing. Somewhere
Right.
along the line, a decade later, it became drug user music where guys like Lil Wayne, guys like Lil Peep would talk about explicitly using drugs. So there's a degradation there. And then the trauma comes in where there's millions of people watching these guys on screens, right? Millions. Like they all got like a million followers, right? So there's sort of this huge trauma ritual that occurs when these guys die. It's almost similar. I compare it to an Aztec pyramid where there's all these eyes and ears on that Aztec pyramid during a sacrifice ritual. Well, guess what? There's a bunch of eyes and ears on these cell phones watching these guys publicly overdose, or in the case of XXX Tentacion, you can watch the security footage from him dying, and up until the very moment it happens, you can see everything. King Von, you can watch his death online. Tell me that's not a sacrifice ritual. Tell me that's not a
Oh, it
giant
totally,
sacrifice
it
ritual,
totally
whether it's
is.
planned or not.
It totally is. It totally is.
Yeah.
Right. Um, you brought up an interesting slice here, and that slice is TikTok.
Okay.
And because we've gone from YouTube and long form to these TikTok videos, right? Where sexy red kind of shows up on TikTok, right? And all people have to do is create 90 seconds of some dribble garbage. And
Yeah.
What does TikTok do? It pushes the algorithm,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then once you're done with sexy red, then you go to Glorilla or you go to Ice Spice, and this is a whole new layer of programming. Short attention span theater, and the Chinese obviously are behind TikTok, and it's like, yeah, let's just keep pushing this out. Let's just keep, demoralizing Americans and giving them shit to listen to
Yes.
and shit to think about. It is an
Yes.
incredibly subversive tool, and these girls think they have clout because of it, and they're just nothing but pawns, little pawns in the game. So, to your point about these rituals being televised or streamed, it is really a complete immersion in this. I don't even want to call it a culture, right? But it's a complete immersion into this. Let's call it a dark subculture.
It's interesting though. It's a dark subculture that's so pervasive, that you might not know these people's songs, but you know who they are. I don't know a single Ice Spice song, and I'll never listen to it, but
Right.
I know who she is. I know she's got this goofy little act, right? So it's like a matter of frequency where you're going to get hit, even if you try to avoid it. It's almost as if these cell phones are quite literally almost prisons of the mind, right? They're quite literally cells where it's like, if we want to partake in these devices, you're going to see some things. Like, you are going to know who Drake is. You're going to know who Ice Spice is. There's no avoiding it when we partake in this technology. Um, you know, the thing that I've been thinking about quite a bit ever since the Iran Israel thing popped off is how the drums of war will coincide with hip hop hypnosis. Will we see? And I saw it almost happening when that thing started popping off. I'm on my Instagram and I see these sort of hip hop themed music videos of these guys like, yeah, Iran wants to mess with us. Well, we're the U.S. Army, like very patriotic, but very hip hop themed war micro videos. I started seeing those more and more. So as the drums of war gear us more towards the fall, we will have sports and hip hop be at the forefront of a large scale military endeavor potentially. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Well, so Mario from Symbolic Studies brought up something really interesting, and it's a
Yeah.
segue that I wanted to introduce into the conversation. And one of the leading proponents for what you're talking about is Jason Whitlock. And Jason
Yes.
Whitlock used to be friends with Tech Nine, and kind of rolled in that world. And then he's like, "I'm done. This is dark. It's demonic. It's a death cult." Because that's what they do. They celebrate the dead, which is what you brought up right at the beginning of the Sharter, right? That's all dead celebration. But what Jason does is he moves to Nashville and he starts to get into country and Western music. There is a level of programming there that is almost as equally insidious as hip hop, right? So if country and Western is the silver cross for the vampiric qualities of hip hop, we're in trouble
Yeah.
because country and Western is going to sell you values that are right up the alley about what you're talking about: war, patriotism, all these what I call faux Chevy values of America, right? It's the faux patriotism, and people think that they're getting cleansed by listening to country and Western music. And they should really revisit that.
Absolutely. I mean, all you got to look for every country song, especially the mainstream, do they mention beer? Do they mention whiskey? Because I can't get through a single one of those songs where they don't mention both. I mean, it's the alcoholism advertised is off the charts. Versus hip hop might be something like, you know, a lot of drugs, right? Country's no different because they're advertising a lot of booze and a lot of heartbreak and a lot of sad saps in their faux Chevys, right?
Now here we go. It's the intersection of hip hop and country. So now you're getting some country guys that like to rap, right? And so when they're rapping and when they're doing the country, like Luke Bryan or somebody like that, that's kind of celebratory. Like, hey, we're going to go out tonight. We're going to be here, blah 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 blah. Blah. So it's kind of this party music, and they sort of throw in the values, right? The values come in, but there's never any voice of dissent in country music at all, right? And it's just this soundtrack for a faux Americana. And Nashville is one of the programming. And when I say programming, I mean programming.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking MK Ultra, hardcore programming. Nashville has been one of the centers of programming for years in this country.
Mm-hmm.
So if you extrapolate that, the programming side, like the Mandrell sisters, Dolly Parton, programmed. They're MK Ultra girls, right? Just taking one layer next to the music. Lee Greenwood and his stupid fucking song about America. Lee Greenwood was exposed as a handler in Kathy O'Brien's book. So now we're like, we want to, again, this is Whitlock. He's becoming a country westerns fan. So now we're going to wash our hands of the filth and the grime of the hip hop world, and we're going to be baptized in the waters of country and western music. And it's like you're just substituting one form of mind control for another.
100%. It's a completely controlled dialectic. You know what I saw recently, and this really speaks to what you're talking about, is did you see that concert in London where it's this guy, I think his name is like Bob Villain or something?
So Bob Dylan was on stage at Glastonbury.
Not this guy's name was literally like Bob Villain or Bill
Bob Dylan,
Villain or something.
Bob Dylan, he was on stage at Glastonbury. Yep, that's who.
Yes. And then recently though, there was this London rapper who's, he's waving all these, Palestine flags, but what it reminds me of what you're talking about, where it's a controlled dialectic. So there was this rap artist, I think his name's Villain. I don't know his first name, but it's Villain,
Bob
VI.
Dylan. It's a
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. And he's on stage and he's saying all these, free Palestine and all these things, but it's like nothing is going to get done necessarily through the realm of popular music. And I think that was the biggest deception of the 1960s, in that, McGowan exposed that there was this anti-war sentiment, right? And then it got derailed by these sort of MK Ultra musicians, where it's like, okay, we're going to take this generation. There's so many of them. A lot of them are anti-war, and a lot of them are very proactive, smart people. And there's a bunch of them talking about boomers. There's tons of them, right? We got to control this through a false dialectic. Let's give them this rock and roll flower power control dialectic that sort of facilitates our goals.
It actually starts in New York. Mm-hmm. And there's this outgrowth of the beat scene, and it's the folk music scene. And you have people like Peter, Paul, and Mary, John Phillips, the Mamas and the Papas. They get their start in New York. So the Dylan is in New York, right? So it's the sort of the launching pad for protest music. It's the civil rights era. All that stuff is part of the social program as well, right? And they're going down that path. Joan Baez, this Woody Guthrie, who's a socialist. This land is your land, right? It's all controlled. It's all totally controlled. And then one day, Dylan says, "I don't want to do this anymore," and he shows up in Newport at the Newport Folk Festival, plugs in his electric guitar, and then that's it, right? Folk music, it's over. He's reviled. In a weird way, Bob Villain doing what he did at Glastonbury is similar in some ways to what Bob Dylan did at the Newport Folk Festival. But to your point, Al, they have to flip the medium now, right? They have to flip it. And what's interesting is a lot of those people that I talked about, they were connected with this building in New York called the Brill Building. And that's where all these songwriters like Carole King, Neil Diamond, Steely Dan was there towards the end. the Mamas and the Papas, Doc Pomus, uh, Jimmy Webb, all these, they would write for all these other artists, they'd write jingles. Well, guess what? They all move west. They all go to California. Mamas and the Papas go to California. Everything shifts. So you have the folk scene, which I believe, again, is part of the social programming because ultimately it's socialist. And it's like, okay, well, that's over. Let's go to California. Let's invest in psychedelia, turn on, tune in, drop out. Right? That is the Dave McGowan chapter of all of this. So there's
Right.
programming all along the way. I mean,
Yeah.
you can even make a case that in some ways the hands of programming are also in jazz, but it's a different kind of programming because the jazz guys, they're all managed and published by the same guys, not directly, but in terms of lineage that manage the hip hop world, right? It's the
Hmm.
same dudes. And what
Yeah.
do? They get their guys strung out on heroin. Charlie
Yep.
Parker, heroin. Miles Davis, heroin. Why? Because they can take advantage of them. They can take advantage of the
Yes.
publishing, right? And then guess what? They die. And who gets the publishing? Oh, well, guess what? We got Charlie Parker's publishing now, right? So this has been going on for a long time.
It's so diabolical. And with hip hop, what they did was especially insidious with the main ingredient, which is opiates, right? What they did was they advertised lean, essentially, which was this sugary
Lean,
mixed
Houston, man.
ice beverage.
That is the drink of choice in Houston.
Right. And it started there with Pimp C and all of them, right? But it got advertised
Paul
big
Wall
time.
and lean.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's you know, it's an opiate at the end of the day. There's a lot of other stuff in there too, but promethazine, codeine, but it's advertised. And could you think of a better way to advertise opiates to kids than have somebody cool holding a purple iced beverage? It's 1,000 times more insidious than a Sprite commercial to have that on mainstream music videos with millions and millions of views. Kids see that, maybe they pick up a habit. Oh, wait, I'm out of lean. Maybe I'll try Oxycontin. Oh,
Right.
I'm out of
Right.
lean, out of Oxycontin. That guy's got heroin. Start out with that little cup.
So one of the key ingredients to lean, which gets into this infantilism, is crushed hard candy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Do you know this?
I do. I knew they mix it up. A lot of guys just use Sprite. A lot of them put the Jolly Ranchers at the bottom, but they get fat when they get addicted to it. I think that's
So
part of it.
they
Yeah.
will crush up the Jolly Ranchers or whatever kind of hard
Mm-hmm.
candy that makes it even sweeter than the Sprite and the codeine cough syrup, which is basically what it is. But again, it's like very childish, right?
Yeah.
It's sort of like this, kind of child sacrament,
Mm-hmm.
and it takes them back to this place where their world was theoretically more innocent, less stressful. And do they really have to have that crushed up candy in there? Probably not. But it does something to the psyche, right? It comforts them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah. What do you? Well, I just want to add something to what Mario had to say, and I tend to agree with you. I think hip hop is on its way out for a lot of people, but for millions and millions of people are going to be in a state of hypnosis for the rest of their life. I think rock and roll essentially lasted 50 years. I think hip hop could go a century because a lot of people have grown out of it, but unfortunately it's big. It's like bigger than ever, man. It's completely immersed with sports culture, which is, we're talking millions and millions of people. I'll put it like this, man. You can't go to a basketball game at a high school, college, pro level without hearing a song by the Migos, right? Or something like that. You can't go to a sports event without hearing a rap song, man. And I'm hopeful that hundreds of thousands of people will snap out of hip hop hypnosis. I see people snap out of it all the time, but for a lot of people, yes. For other people, no. What do you think about that?
All right. So I'm a San Francisco 49er fan.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this is not just germane to the 49ers, that all these teams do it now. When
Yeah.
teams practice, they have massive sound systems with hip hop playing while they
Yes.
practice. right?
Insane.
And
Yeah.
and it's like that. By the way, matriculates all the way down into Pee Wee football. So to your point, it is so embedded into the culture, and even somebody like Kyle Shanahan, who's the coach of the 49ers, he's into it, man. It's like Kyle Shanahan has one of the worst cases of arrested development. And this, to me, this is a really, really interesting story and a look into Kyle Shanahan that I think is kind of troubling, actually. So the 49ers have this player, you probably know he is Ricky Pearsall.
Yep.
Ricky Pearsall was near Macy's in downtown San Francisco, and he was shopping for some clothes. Uh, and some dude, I don't even know what happened to the trial. Some dude decides that he wants Ricky's watch. Ricky's wearing a Rolex, and he's taking it off Ricky, and Ricky's not letting him do it. He's like, "You're not getting this watch, motherfucker." So I think the guy had a 22 pistol, and he shoots Ricky, shoots him in the labrum, right? And there's video of him getting into the ambulance. The bullet goes all the way through him. By mid-season, he's practicing again, right? Who goes to the hospital? John Lynch, player. John Lynch was a
Yep.
badass player,
Yeah. Yeah.
general
Safety.
manager.
Bucks. Yep.
Where do you think Kyle Shanahan was?
At a rap concert.
No, it gets even better.
What?
He's throwing a party for Rick Ross.
Oh my God.
And there's a photo of him and Rick Ross together. And Kyle Shanahan is decked out like some fucking pimp
Mm-hmm.
hanging out with Rick Ross. I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Your player's in the hospital, but you're chasing clout with Rick Ross?
Yeah. That's
Now,
awful. But yeah.
there you
Oh,
go.
well,
There's your hip hop hypnosis at a high
yeah.
level.
Yeah. It's crazy, man, because if you think about Kyle Shanahan, he's probably listening to that music in his earphones. How many hours per day? And how big have people's appetites become for music? Ever since the invention of not the iPhone, but the iPod, where people had libraries in the palm of their hands, people's appetites for music have gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And when I think about somebody like Kyle Shanahan, it immediately reminds me of John Gruden. So John Gruden, he has his segment on Barstool, right? But what happens is these players will introduce him to rap songs, or some other former player he had introduce him to a new rap song. And they do that to get John Gruden's reaction. Like, yeah, I like that. I like the Migos. It's almost as if people are in an aquarium of hypnotic vibration where you can't escape it, man. If you're in sports culture, the rap music is inescapable and it's incessant. Look at Kyle. It's like, but to speak to Mario's point, to somebody like me, or to somebody as a part of this, Robert Phoenix's audience, or anybody else, do we think Kyle looks cool now? No, Kyle looks like a fool. He looks like somebody who's trying so hard to be cool that it's not cool at all. He doesn't look any different from Robert Kraft.
Yeah. By the way, Rick Ross, Freemason. It's like, Kyle, grow the fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got Brandon Ayuk. I think that's Debo Samuel back there. And Ayuk can't stand him now, wants to get traded. So just pretending that you're down with the culture doesn't mean you're going to have eternal love from all your players.
Right.
He's look, I'm going to call it as I see it, man. Kyle Shanahan is a fucking race sellout, right? He's a race sellout. I'm sorry. Can you hang
that
out?
photograph?
Yeah.
It looked like a reverse minstrel show.
Absolutely.
Like,
absolutely.
He's tap dancing. Like,
look, I don't care if you want to hang out with anybody. I don't care. Right?
mm-hmm.
I don't care. Hang out with whoever you want to hang out with. But to your point, in that moment, reverse minstrel show. It's embarrassing as fuck.
Yeah.
You know? So that's where we are in terms of the deep embedding of the culture and the music and sports. You're right. Go to any basketball game, you're going to hear, unless you go to a Spurs game. It's a little bit different at a Spurs game
Okay.
because the majority of the people who go to Spurs games are Mexican. San
Wow.
Antonio is heavily Mexican. You're going to hear more Latino-based music at a Spurs game. Guarantee you that. I've been to a few. So some of this is going to be, I think, arena dependent, and maybe that's just an outlier. I don't know, but yeah, it's kind of everywhere. But how long can it continue to go on and reinvent itself? I don't think it's going to be another 100 years.
Okay. I hope
And I'll
so.
tell
Hope not.
I'll tell you, this is my theory. I don't think Gen Z is really into hip hop. I think
They're the
Gen
first
Z
generation out of it, which is great.
I think Gen Z, if anything, like I went to my son's frat party a couple years ago.
Yeah.
What were they playing? They were playing 70s rock, right? That's what
Mhm.
these kids were into. Now, I'm not saying the 70s rock is something everybody should aspire to, but they weren't listening to hip hop
Yeah.
or trap or anything like that. So I think Gen Z is going to be a generation that, and maybe they migrate to country. I don't know, but it feels to me like they're going to migrate out of hip hop.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, if you're in Gen Z right now and you have a smartphone and you have access to Instagram, Twitter, you've seen Mr. Kanye West take sort of a turn the last couple of years. I mean, was it 3 or 4 years ago? He had his Jesus is King album, which was incredible. People used to mock the idea of a gospel album, but that album's outstanding. And nowadays, I mean, he's coming out with music that is quite catchy and is quite uh, something that as millennial as I grew up, we wouldn't have ever dreamed that the Kanye West we grew up with would be the Kanye West of today. And it is quite interesting. And then you have something also like Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, Sean Puff Daddy Combs. That was my first CD I ever bought or I ever received rather was, I think it was called Puff Daddy and the Family, right? Was the name of the CD. You see his disgusting personal life. It's now public information. So when you look at the plight of Kanye and the plight of P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, it's very difficult to say, oh, wow, that's a really cool culture. This little baby to baby culture of idiocy and infantile drug advertisement. It's probably very, very difficult to think that's cool. And I think that's very encouraging. So that's awesome
Yeah. I
for
mean,
Gen
it
Z.
kind of feels in some ways like Diddy is the nail, right? He's the nail
Mm-hmm.
in the coffin. It feels that even though he squirmed off the hook, and I knew he would, by the way, there's enough reprehensible material that's come out as a result of that.
Yeah.
He's radioactive. If when he gets out, and I do believe he will, he'll probably apply for citizenship in some other country, take his kids with him, and you won't ever see him again unless somebody knocks him off. But to me, that's like the nail in the coffin of hip hop because Diddy's like the apotheosis of the hip hop dream, and it's over. It's done. It's done.
Yeah.
And even like okay, look at Beyonce. What does she do? She cuts a fucking country western record.
Yeah. And she dyes her hair as blonde as she possibly can and lightens her skin as much as she possibly can. It's getting a little weird, Beyonce, to be honest. Like it's a
Yeah,
cosplay. It's bizarre.
yeah, it is totally. But well, Amy Gill said major program in Nashville since the '70s. That's true. And Beyonce has been programmed since birth, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So she's a total MK Ultra kid. Um, yeah, man. I think the dawn is setting on hip hop, and maybe the Sharter could just push it right over the edge.
Yeah. Here's hoping to that. And I'm glad you enjoyed the audio version because I personally put so much into the audio version.
Well,
I love it.
you do a great job of it. You maintain the same temp. There was one place where you had a bit of a glitch,
Mhm.
but there was only one.
Mhm.
You were in character throughout. So did you record that in segments? Did you record it all in one shot? How much editing did you do? What kind of mic, sound equipment, filters did you use? Let's get a little geeky here.
Okay. So it was rather bare bones, but the amount of effort and the amount of takes I had to do was, it almost took me like a year to do it fully because I would be doing it on weekends, before work, after work. I would record a chapter, I would listen to it, be like, no, I need to do that voice better. I need to do that chapter better. I need to perform rather than just read. So I'm performing, I'm voice acting. I'm not just reading, I'm voice acting all these
You
different,
are. You're taking on the voices of these characters.
yeah, absolutely. Big
Yeah.
time. And that's not just one take. That's okay. I could do that better. Okay. So every line in the book I probably read 10 times through this microphone, through my little Focusrite, and then to GarageBand, and then just editing it, listening to it, editing it. So I think it took me like 7 drafts total. And the audiobook's like 9.5 hours. So it took me a long time, weekends, before work, after work, to and I'm editing the text as I'm recording the audio because there's no better way to edit than to actually listen to it yourself and hear it for yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be no filters, no nothing like that, just straight voice acting.
So that's where your Virgo really kicked in.
Yeah, psycho,
All
went
that,
psychotic
all
Virgo
that
on it.
teaching.
Yeah, for sure. And you can go nuts as a Virgo writing a book for sure. And I've definitely been through
Well,
that a bunch of times.
it's clear in your attention to detail, and some of the some of the language you use. There's that one scene where the guy is going to take off. What's her name? Lou's
Cindy Lou.
head,
Yeah.
Cindy Lou, and he's got wheelies on, and he's got a katana, and I'm like, this is fucking nuts. But the way that you detailed it was really impressive. And then going back and throwing in the witticisms at the end of that too was like really funny. I'd love to see this get made into a movie. I think it could be done.
Me too.
I think you should start doing a GoFundMe and let's see if we can get the Sharter onto the at least the small screen.
Yeah, even like a cartoon, I think would be so cool because I did all the voice acting. All I need is just any type of animation. I think would be take this thing up 1,000 notches, and that'd be a lot of fun.
I got 2 letters for you.
You got 2 what?
2 letters for you.
Letters.
Yeah,
Tell me
AI,
more. Okay,
AI.
yeah. Yep. I haven't dabbled, but I might, dabble and see what I can do just in terms of because I'd be more into the crude, cheap animation versus
Oh, I'm sure you can program AI to do crude and cheap.
okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah. And basically, I mean, I could. It would be super easy
hmm
because it would just take your text prompts or audio prompts, and it would create the images.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So yeah.
now you, as the author of it, could like today's thumbnail. That was AI.
Okay.
I
hmm
created that. I'm like, but I had to shape the language to a place where I got an image that I wanted. And I went through about 10 images before I got to that image. So you have to author it in a way that it understands really. And sometimes it'll give you something that's kind of interesting and spectacular. So what was happening when I did that thumbnail is I would go through these different filters. And once the program has, so one of the things I did is I ran it through a psychedelic program. and then or psychedelic filter. And then everybody in the picture started to look weird, kind of mechanistic and otherworldly. And so every iteration with whatever filter I was using took on that imagery. I'm like, no, 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 this is not what I want, right? Because AI just starts creating things on it. So you have to go back in and be very, very specific. And once I got specific and I got to the right filter, that's where we got the thumbnail. And I thought, this is exactly what I want.
Mm-hmm.
I want these people losing their fucking minds. I want helicopters. I want a radio tower in the back with a signal. And I want you, which you sent me your image. I want you in the corner, just kind of looking onto that thing. So I am not opposed to AI for certain things,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I am not a graphic designer. So for me to do that and save time, no problem, right? Would I want AI to write a book for me? No, because I think I could write a
Mm-hmm.
book. Would you want AI to write a book for you? No, you're a writer,
Absolutely not. No. Yeah.
right? So I think there is a limited use for things that we cannot do that I think are valuable. That's just my take
Cool.
on it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. Yeah. That would be really cool to have this thing animated. But in the meantime, what do you think about audiobooks? Are you a fan of audiobooks? Are they generally something you
Well, I
enjoy?
do. I do like audiobooks actually,
Yeah.
because you can put them on while you're driving if you
Yes.
have a long drive. And I have a very long history of consuming media when I go to bed. I started when I
Okay.
was about 11 years old and 12 years old. I had a TV in my room. Worst thing my parents could have ever done. So I would stay up and I would watch Johnny Carson and the Tomorrow Show. I mean, fuck. Sometimes I'd be watching a movie until about 2:30 in the morning, and I have to get up to school for the next day. So I've always had media kind of at night and late. I don't have that anymore, but for a while I just listened to radio. I would always listen to radio when I went to bed, whether it was sports talk radio or Art Bell, or there was always something kind of taking me to sleep. And so now I'll go onto YouTube, and I like to listen to historical documentaries when I go to bed, whether it's about the Russian Revolution or the French Revolution or Genghis Khan. And I think audiobooks play a role in that world as well, right? And I think they're cool. And there can be some interesting flourishes and touches. I'm all in. I'm all in on the audiobook.
Nice. Very
Yeah.
cool.
So
So
we've already sold one copy of the Sharter since we've been on the air here.
that's incredible. Who bought it? Somebody in the just
Julie Sunshine 333.
That's amazing. Thank you, Julie. I hope you enjoy it. And whether it's the physical cover or the audiobook, I put everything into it. I went Virgo Psycho for years. So, I just want people to enjoy it. And whether or not you are a hip hop fan or not, doesn't matter. It's just super funny. It's a super funny audiobook. If you're missing that element of satirical humor in your life and you want to listen to something while you're grocery shopping, while you're commuting, while you're, going to sleep, I'm a huge fan of audiobooks. I used to be a hater. And then I listened to the Dune audiobook and I loved it. So ever since then, nice.
There you
Sandrine,
go.
Vox Services. I'll get it too. Probably audio. It's on iTunes as well. Apple Books. So yeah, Audible, Apple Books. It's a lot of fun. And I think you guys will really enjoy it.
Well, Al, congratulations on
Mm-hmm.
bringing this to the world so that people can both read it and listen to it. And are you still working on your next novel about the surf assassin?
I am. Yeah. I was working on it first thing this morning. I woke up at like 2:30, worked on it, went back to sleep, got back up, working on it. So I'm working pretty psychotically on that. I want to have that out in November. So yeah, I'm working on a book about a surf assassin, a guy. He ends up getting into a workplace incident and it's witnessed by a mysterious benefactor. This mysterious benefactor recruits him into a secret society where he serves the function of the surf assassin. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Audiobook, hardcover will come out hopefully this fall.
Cool. Good. Well, we'll get you back on, and maybe if you have the stomach for it, we can do a couple of episodes of Sirius Sports if you feel so inclined.
Man, I think this fall is going to be very interesting, to say the least. And I think that a parallel I was thinking about earlier was the fact that Netanyahu will be on what's called the Nelk Boys podcast.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like this
no.
brutal, awful, just awful. But it's one of those like bro podcasts that I think their numbers are super duper inflated. I don't think there's that many people watching, but it kind of reminded me of like training camp. I saw this parallel between the training camp of this audio, this podcast presentation, and sort of the training camp of football as we gear towards the fall, and whether we see a full-scale military operation. If we are to see that, it'll happen in the fall, in my opinion, right in coinciding directly with football season. So I think this,
yeah, it feels like it. Yeah.
yeah.
Sure.
So I think this football season, there's going to be a lot in the air, let's say,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
All right,
But,
man. Well, thanks for
all
being
right.
here, and spending some time with us today, and keep on doing your thing. And congratulations for breaking your hip hop hypnosis.
Appreciate it, man. Take care, everybody. We'll see ya.
All right, that's the great Dawg right there. Um, so I've got about maybe 20 minutes left in the show, and a couple things I just want to talk about and cover here. In terms of Kerrville and the flood, Trump is here today. Like there is probably about a 5 mile square radius of the town that's just completely blocked off. Apparently, he was here yesterday in one of the rescue search helicopters, kind of surveying the damage. And now he gets to have a moment of humanity where disaster is the best disinfectant for the stench of the Epstein files in the Epstein case. Uh, do not count me in on one of the groups that believes that Trump is now using these files against the dark players of the deep state. Could have done it in 2016. Had the time to do it. I don't believe that's the case at all. I think Trump is running cover for the mostly the country that was involved in this. Of course, we know that it's connected to Benjamin Netanyahu and Robert Maxwell and the Mossad and the CIA. They all work together. And of course, he's covering for people inside the government as well. Right? So, but he gets to play the role of compassionate commander in chief, coming into Kerrville, assessing the situation, and telling everybody what a great job they're doing and how proud he is of the state of Texas and Greg Abbott, blah, blah, blah. If you are interested in joining locals, you can join for free. I just posted a piece it was really kind of early in the morning. And it's my take on sort of the big picture of what we're experiencing here. And it's just one of those things that, if look, I know a lot of you are creative. Like every single one of you in chat is creative. And everybody has their own creative process. Uh, for me, it usually starts with lines, sentences, phrases, words, and they kind of build into feelings and into atmosphere and mood. And that's what you'll get. I'm just going to give you a kind of a blink on it here so that you can see what I'm talking about. And it's inspired me to get much more involved in locals because it's, I'm not here to make excuses, but my schedule's crazy. Like, it is really crazy. I get up, I do 2 shows, and then I have 2 to 3 clients a day. And then I'm trying to like run a life and take care of myself. So it's not always easy for me to just step off and create more content, but I'm going to make much more of an effort here on Locals. So let me show you. So this is what I posted, scenes from Floodland when the 4th of July turned into Dependence Day. And I definitely get into the vibe. So if you're interested, I'm not going to read anything. If you're interested, go to Locals, join if you're a member, go check it out. It's all there. I'm probably going to put up another post today, and it's related to the mayor of Kerrville, who I talk about sort of a bit at length at the end of this article, and some Donald Trump. So you're gonna start to get more content from me here over on the local side of things. So there, if you haven't joined, and if you're a member, go check it out, go read it. I think you might enjoy it. It was certainly cathartic for me. That's about it. That's all. That's all I have to add to today's program. Again, big thanks. Shout out to Dawg. Go check out Sharter audio, written, whatever. Um, on the audio side, it was 1 credit for me on Audible. Worth it. Totally worth it. And you will get a kick out of it. Let me tell you. We'll be back on Sunday night, and of course, we'll have plenty to talk about. Obviously, I was texting with David yesterday, um, and we're going to get together real soon. Of course, he's been busy being a dad for the 2nd time, totally changing the schedule. David the night owl is no longer. So the only night that he has available is Wednesday. So we're going to do something on a Wednesday. I don't know if it's going to be this Wednesday or next Wednesday, but David and I are going to team up. And one of the things that I'm going to talk about on Sunday night, I'm going to give you a little bit of a tease. A little bit of a tease. I'm going to be talking about Marco Rubio. I have theories. Oh, I have theories. And I have the astrological receipts to boot. So if you're intrigued, come on by Sunday night, and we'll crack that open and break that down. All right. Thanks for being here. Love to all of you. Take care of yourselves. Treat each other well. God bless. Robert Phoenix.